Welcome to VNN. Our guest today is Zohra Zoberi, an author from Mississauga who has had a wonderful and adventurous life in many parts of the world, from Pakistan and across Europe to Canada. Let us hear what Zohra has to say about her new book, a very readable memoir titled The Other I, capital I. Welcome to VNN, Zohra.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bala Menon. It's so good to see you, and I'm honored. I feel honored that you invited me to this. May I show you the book?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay, there it is.
Okay. And that's you on the picture cover?
Yes, that's my wedding picture
Oh,
in
very
black
good.
and white. And then this other one is fairly recent, but I have aged since COVID. This
No,
is
I
just,
think you still look the same.
thank you. Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is like, I think my life may be most important literary contribution because I have taken to literary arts as a matter of just not my own, it's enlightenment through entertainment.
Mhm.
I did stage some plays and I did a lot of literary work in the city of Mississauga. I've been here since 1976, so one of the most senior immigrants.
And you say your story is a journey from separation and alienation to integration and celebration. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, because at age 10, I put that in my preface. At age 10, I saw a young girl with red suitcases heading off to Canada. And I envied and I thought maybe someday I will go there too. So I rushed at the back, my dad's study room, swirled the globe, and I see Canada, all the way at the other end of the world. So I thought, never, it's not going to happen. But then, there was a turning point in my life when I was 16. I came home in a Tonga on a horse carriage from school, yanked the horse's tail, skipped my way into the house, and my mom said, "Behave yourself." Somebody in the guest room, in the living room. So there was a gentleman came to see me to check me out for his younger brother, who came after 10 years stay in England with his MSc and PhD. I was a high school girl and he was a PhD professor. And in 5 days we were married.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
He told me you and me and we traveled the world. So I got a chance to travel the world. So before it took 12 years and 36 countries before my Canadian dream was fulfilled. But
So,
I've been here since 1976 or
so
46.
your book is all sprinkled with a lot of juicy and scary twists.
Yes, it is a lot of juicy and scary twists. I mean, in the first week that I got there, it felt like there were all Black students on a
Where
university
this was
campus.
in Nigeria.
Yeah, instead of London,
Yeah.
our people are so we complain about being victims of racism, but the racism exists everywhere. Even our own people, oh, now you're going to African jungles instead of London and all that. But I arrived in a place that is supposed to be Ile-Ife, a relatively unknown locale, but they cut and sawed 13,500 acres of forest, deep, thick rainforest, to
Okay.
create a brand new university campus. And professors from all over the world were enticed. And so there were all this educated elite, and there was this high school girl that had to find her niche in that. So it was interesting, but it was known to be that locale. It was known to be that's where the mankind was originated, actually,
So
according to
you
people.
settled in well in Nigeria.
Yeah, it called Mini America in Africa, in the heart of Africa, Mini America, because we had all kinds of facilities. The oil boom, Nigerian oil boom. So we lived through the oil boom. I have related that story, how the entire nation got 35 to 50% salary raise, all in one lump sum paid. So first motorbike was replaced with Harley Davidson type of stuff, and the first Volkswagen was replaced with Mercedes, that kind of shopping spree.
Okay.
But yeah, it allowed us because my husband was a professor, so it gave me an exposure to the educated elite, and I started going to the library once I went back to school, American International School, and I told my husband, don't share that with any professors. And then I did my A levels, then I did my university education. But it was a luxury. Every 9 months, 3 months paid passage to go anywhere in the world. But finally, we decided that, we can't be there forever. Once our son was about 6, we thought we have to find ourselves a home.
This was before the military coup and other problems in Nigeria.
I really, no, we were right in the middle of it. I arrived one day to the library. I used to study, uh, I used to really be up on all latest news so that I could be at Vice Chancellor's head table to where he had all the state guests because he was one of the think tanks on the think member. So yeah, no, I arrived one day to the library so that I could be well prepared for the evening cocktail at the Vice Chancellor's place, where there was, I think, Prime Minister of Sierra Leone or somebody was coming. And I thought, so I was getting myself educated on Nixon's impeachment. So um, I arrived, there was not a single car. And then I just heard a voice, out. And I look up in this 10-story building that they were very proud of. They called it 10th anniversary cake of the university. So there were soldiers posted all over. And I said, so many soldiers are pointing guns to me like out. And I looked up and I burst out laughing. So they said, Nigerian typical is when they're surprised, they say, madam, aren't you scared? And I said, no, why should I be scared? They said, it's because we are all pointing guns to you. I said, but I haven't done anything wrong. It was like a movie scene, actually, really. But after that, one of the chief soldiers escorted me home, and there was this Pious and Charity. Charity was our maid, Pious was our cook. They received me and they thought, Madame is coming with a police army jeep. So they got scared. I said, don't worry, they're just escorting me here. That's it. But there was the oil boom impact, and we got to travel. We had a few sabbaticals. One sabbatical was in Sweden. It allowed us every 9 months, Bala, to travel around wherever we wanted to go. I also, by the way, maybe we didn't mention, I also made a trip and did a travelogue to India, Taj Mahal.
Mhm. You
To
were
my
called the gasoline queen. Why was that?
Gasoline Queen, yes, I was dubbed because what happened was I learned a little bit of Yoruba language. Nigerians' western province is Yoruba. They had 4 provinces, Yoruba, Hausa, and so on. So I learned a little bit of Yoruba. So whenever I would meet them, I would say a few things. And it's amazing how many of successes in my life are because I said a few things in somebody else's language, I'm telling you. Being at the right place at the right time has brought me a lot of luck. So I just, whenever there was gas shortage or something, or oil shortage or anything, I would get, because I spoke to them a few words, and then they would always, if I bought oranges, they will give me 2 extra oranges because I said something in their language and things like that. So because the gasoline shortage, there was a refinery breakdown. How ironical, in the middle of Nigeria being world's 4th largest oil producing country, a refinery broke down. So this story stems from there because I lined up and how I got my tanks filled. I returned, and the vice chancellor of the university, the registrar, he didn't have gas in his car, and he said, I bet you have the gasoline queen. But then I wrote a story because you'll find out who actual gasoline queen is.
What happened after Nigeria then?
After Nigeria, well, we applied. I left Nigeria with a good, like when I left Pakistan, I left with a good, my recognition from my school. But there was a lot of opposition to my marriage, actually, a lot of opposition. Um, but when I left Nigeria, I had become a badminton champion. So and I was so proud of the fact that I was the only non-white. I wasn't white, but I was the only non-white in the entire stadium. And when they gave me a compliment, they said, "You're just like black." It was so nice. More than the win, it was very important for me to see that how our nation is also somewhat racist, that how I had not overcome,
Yeah.
but they accepted me so well. That was the biggest reward for me. So, but then Canadian, I mean, it was a very educated decision. Australia, a lot of professors were going to Australia, but we got reports from them that there was a little bit of racism there. And we found England. My husband said no, although he had lived there. I used to call him Brown Englishman, but he said no to England. And then that we find out in the book later on
But you
why.
you traveled to England. You went to England, eh?
Yeah, we spent a sabbatical there, and we had some very interesting experiences. My husband and I did, he did actually, I shouldn't take the credit for that. He did a lot of research in the jungles of Nigeria, West Africa, all over West Africa, collecting fungi, mushrooms.
Okay.
So I used to be his assistant, and I started sketching the mushrooms, live specimen. So we actually collected them from Togo, Dahomey, Lomé, all those countries. And then in England, there was Kew Mycological Gardens, one of the world's largest gardens. They also have the largest botanical section. So that's where we used to bring rare species to be identified. So we had a sabbatical there and one sabbatical year in Sweden and 6 months 5 months in Paris. So that allowed us a lot of, mingling with people of different countries and all that. It was really, by the time I came to Canada, I think I was already uh, sort of had embraced multiculturalism. And the reason we chose Canada was that it was the most accepting country of
Right.
people from all origins. And Canada has proven that actually.
Which year was this in Canada?
This 1976.
Okay.
And when I came here, I did experience some discrimination because 76 was the worst year for South Asians. There was a big influx. And so I have related the story of, the discrimination as well. But then there are people, on both sides, there are people
Right,
good
right.
and everywhere, no
It
matter.
works both ways, I know.
It works both
Where
ways.
did you come to Canada? I mean, which city did you go to? That was
Mississauga has such a hold on me. That's my city. So my son even says that the world's best country, best city we live in.
I,
And now,
I can disagree with that.
did you? Yeah, yeah. I think,
The others will disagree. People in Vancouver will say, "Oh, their city is the best in the world."
yeah. Well, I mean, wherever you live, if you feel that way, why not? Feel it that it's your best
That's
place.
right. That's a nice, beautiful city. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
But
Mississauga
you
is
said you worked in what Saskatchewan?
yes, very interesting job in Saskatchewan. Very interesting. I applied. My husband took me to this place next day, and a gentleman on the train journey said to me, "Lady, the kind of life you have led, please go back. Take a U-turn because you're not going to fit in Regina." And my husband took me the next day for a drive, and there was Simpson Sears, and there was a S-shaped building. So he said to me, I said to him that if I find a job in that building, in this location, I might just survive in this city. So, I mean, first I had landed up with a temporary job with Task Force on Canadian Unity.
Mm.
Imagine I have experienced, my parents have experienced in the India-Pakistan partition. In Nigeria, I experienced this cessation of Biafra war and all that stuff. And I arrived Canada and I'm facing this, the first job is, task force on Canadian unity because Quebec wants to separate. Like it was a great experience, just few weeks. But after that, I applied to a job. It was 8 years, 8 years banking experience, mandatory. I
Oh,
had none. And I applied for that job. Can you believe that daring personality of mine? A little bit dumb, but sometimes being dumb pays off. So he called me for the interview and he said, "Did you read my interview? Did you read the requirements?" I said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Well," I said, "8 years minimum banking experience. You have no work experience." let alone banking. So I said, yeah, but that's the only qualification I don't meet. The rest I meet. He said, he laughed and he said, like what? I said, good communicator, willing to learn, ambitious, da 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 da, all that I have. So anyway, he said, well, I'll let you know later. So it was a brush off. He said no. 3 months later, on a Christmas morning, Christmas Day, he calls me because in the meantime, I got another job. Very interesting. And I think the reader will enjoy how I got that job. But he called me and he said, would you be willing for a second interview? And I thought, what? So apparently the staff, young staff at the credit union, they ganged up against whoever came. So he
Okay.
hired two people and they kicked them off. And that's why the pest, I
Third
was
experiment.
scared to, yeah, I was calling every 2 weeks to say, whenever there's any chance, please, because my mind is set on that building. So he called me and he said, you know that you don't know that job. And I know that you don't know that job. But I'm willing to teach you because of your spirit. And he just took me under his wing. 3 months later, I got totally into it.
And then
So
then you then you joined this bank, the CIBC.
then he advised me, do not join a major chartered bank. When I left, I was crying because this George Clark, I was very attached to him. He was my mentor. But he said to me, I advise you because some people have a knack for something and the large organizations do not recognize. Small organization does recognize. So he asked me, he advised me, but I ended up in the bank. Because my first preference was Air Canada because I thought I could fly and be with my parents and for free of charge, but I didn't get anywhere there. And at that time, jobs were available left, right, and center. I had 4 job opportunities.
Okay.
It was 76, and I had done a 1 year business course at Shaw College here. So was geared to Canadian lifestyle and Canadian workforce. But I got in the bank, yes. And in the bank, banking was not my thing because on the application it said what was your least liked subject. And it happened to be math. And I thought I would be the dumbest person to be so honest and say math. So I thought, what is next least like? And I said history. But then when I got in the bank, Bala, the first day, I mean, sometimes somebody had to calculate 3 times 8, and they had to go to the calculator.
Yeah,
And
but
I
get
thought I can do 16 times 17. We were taught, you must be taught in Sri
yeah,
Lanka and India and
learn
Pakistan.
learn it by
The
rote.
tables, yeah, yeah. So then I thought it's fine. But even in the bank, Abala, you will find in my book, I have related stories where it was just a matter of being at the right place at the right time. Luck brought me, my life is very much a yin yang. Everybody's this, but mine is the more like it's a tossing all the time. Yin and
So
yang.
what's 4 into 12?
What's that?
What's 4 by 12? 4 into 12 is what?
48.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, funny thing is, I can't say it when you say 4 into 12, it's harder for me to say, but when I say 12 chok 48,
Yeah. Okay.
when I say it in
So you
Urdu,
learn. Yeah.
12 chok 48, because that's how I learned it. Yeah.
So
No,
you were the CIBC for what?
20 years,
20 years.
20 years at CIBC. But at CIBC, again, I had mentors. Bala, there's a chapter in here. I had to take a daring step, a very daring step, and it worked. And that's the day I felt that we made the right decision to come to Canada.
Mm.
You know, so you'll read about that daring step.
You had a successful banking career, isn't it?
Yes, I did. I did. I became a therapeutic banker. They called me therapeutic banker because, when you are counseling people in their credits, you realize that credit people go into debts and what a disaster it happens and it affects their emotions, their marriages.
Yeah.
You're sitting there cutting up their credit cards, their marriage is about to break because one or the other has overblown their budget. So those kind of things. And I ended up I think I wanted to be a psychiatrist right from the beginning, but
And then what you ran a what this optometric?
yeah, I think in the bank, when I found I have a chapter in there changing corporate culture. So when the corporate culture changed, because in the beginning, when I was in the bank new, the manager called me one day and said, marketing department's coming to be with you for a week. I said, oh, good, I want to learn marketing. He said, no, no, they are coming to see what it is you're doing that's working well. So, but then I found that 20 years later, or 16 years later, 18 years later, um, the bank has hired a couple of people that are teaching people how to sell. And I am being lined up with those who have to learn ABC of banking
Okay.
or selling. So I decided, you know what, it's not for me
Time to
anymore.
go.
Time to go. But my son had said, never work with family member. So I had no hope that he's going to hire me. He had just won a gold medal and he just started his optometry clinic. But then he came to me, I don't know, out of the blue. He said, Mom, why don't we try for 3 months? And then those 3 months ended up in 13 years.
So,
Because I learned,
so are you a member of many writing groups? And
yes, yes. Well, I mean, first of all, you are part of this family that I am the part of, Courtney Park. I've been a member of Writers and Editors Network for many years. I'm also sort of partially part of, I don't attend all the meetings of Mississauga Writers Club, but I have published in their anthologies. And I've been, and then Oakville, literally, I regularly attend their meetings. And I am, because I have a chapter in this book about bilingual scene of our, literary field. So it's, I would say for at least four more Urdu Hindi speaking groups that I belong to and I attend
this
constantly.
when this book has just been published and it's now available everywhere.
It's available in at Amazon, but I was looking at Barnes and Noble. It's listed as one of the first books. The only thing is I have to sort out with the publisher. Why does it say the information not available about this book?
Okay.
So I have to, they are working on it and they'll put down the phrase that you said, a journey from, you know, separation and alienation to integration. But it's about life lived in mainly in two cultures. It's a multiculturalism we all experience. But in the morning you are in Western clothes, you're business, and you're speaking English all the time, and then it's Friday night. Comes Friday night, you're entering another world.
Is this your? This is not your first book. It's your. How many books have you written?
This is my third book.
Third book.
There's a prose and there's a poetry collection, True Colors, From the Universe to the Inner Mind. And that has stories like it's got about Michael Jackson. It's got a poem about Omar Gaddafi. And it's got love and romance and death of romance and poverty. Just about, the beauty of the world and the ugly of the world is painted on that canvas. Yeah.
Thank you, Zohra. And it was a very interesting conversation with Zohra Zoberi, an author from Mississauga, who has just published her book of memoir called The Other Eye. And I'm sure it will be a very interesting read. Show the cover again for our
I
viewers.
hope so.
Yeah.
The cover. I am very pleased, Bala. One thing that I would like to share with you is the Radhika Albu. She's a professor emerita of English language, linguistics, and Canadian studies. So she has called it a Bildungsroman
Okay, very good. Very
book.
good.
So she thinks that it has a significance as ethnographic perspective.
Very nice.
So
Yeah.
let's see. I hope with all of you supporting me and all that, I hope it
All
will
the
be.
best. Wishing you the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you again, and it was a very interesting talk, and I think we'll meet again.